All right, let's try and understand this a bit better. Bring in legal analyst Elton Hart, who joins us now via our video link. Elton, it's lovely to have you on the SABC News channel. Thanks very much indeed for helping us, I suppose, try to understand these complex matters. In my mind, there are two kind of pathways in this conviction. There's appealing the factual findings of the case and raising several questions of law that they want to be reevaluated. As things stand, is there a clear kind of legal grounding upon which the NPA stands as they make this appeal?
No, indeed, the criminal procedure makes provision for that in section 309 as well as read together with 319 of the CPA, where they can actually now appeal the judgment. Any party to a proceeding has the right to appeal a decision that is taken by a court of law, be it the magistrate, a judge. They can take it on appeal, and that is a right that's reserved for all litigants. Doesn't matter if you're in civil or criminal proceedings. So the NPA has now alluded to the fact that they've studied the judgment and they feel that certain questions of law are for them an issue, and they're seeking clarity, maintaining certain questions that they would pose to to Judge Skuman, who actually handed down the judgment, to actually clear up, because they want to go on questions of law on this appeal, which is well within their right. So there is certain procedures. It just differs as to the party who's actually bringing this procedures. Of course, you have litigants also that's represented by attorneys and unrepresented ones. But here you have the state with all the machinery. But for me, what's worrying is that the NPA is currently also busy investigating if disciplinary steps should be taken against the prosecutors handling that matter. So if you are hinting towards that, then for me, it indicates that maybe you guys did not do a stellar job as you should have done, and now you want to run to the appeal avenue. If that is the case, you didn't ask the relevant questions, the right questions to secure the conviction. You can't come now and say that a different court. Then it's sort of showing to me that you did not do your homework in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, put simply, does the NPA trust its team or not? And if the answer is yes, then how does it explain this process of trying to establish whether or not the prosecutors did what they were meant to do during the trial?
Obviously, if you look at it, and if you now can say there's serious prosecutorial misconduct that can actually lead to criminal offenses then you can say maybe there was like some form of corrupt activity, then you can bring it home under pressure to actually say that these prosecutors acted against the interest of justice, and most probably you can try and pursue that avenue to say that what they did. But still, and I think what Judge Skuman did here is, like she said clearly in her judgment, there was a lack of cross-examination, and sort of how they tried to paint use the similar fact argument where they had this, and there was like these WhatsApp groups, this coaching of witnesses, which is not allowed. Then to err on the side of safety, then you need to now respect an accused fair trial rights, and then say rather than convicting an innocent man, then actually acquitting a guilty one, then that plays now in the balance. And I think she juggled well, and I think there's nothing really that they can, because she already said it in her judgment.
Yeah, in fact, the impression created by Judge Skuman was that, in fact, the state didn't seem to be interested to uncover the truth. That's just my paraphrasing of what she said. But it'll also be, I suppose, the question I imagine in many people's minds who are not legal analysts is there a clear standard or a clear test that the NPA needs to pass in order to get a successful appeal in this type of matter?
Now, you must remember now, when we talk about appeal, we talk about a record. So you have got a record there in front of you. Appeal is strictly on the record. You look at the questions of fact that was in dispute, or you look at the facts in dispute and the relevant facts that support the facts in dispute. Was that placed on record? And the questions of law that they want to run to as the NPA, was it placed in dispute when the initial trial ran? And if those things are not in the record and it was not raised, it's very difficult for you to slip them in by the back door, because then it means now you are going to try and bring in new facts or new evidence that you want to use to support your case to actually get a successful appeal. So it's a very slippery slope for the NPA, and I think This is those ones where you say bygones be bygones. And as much as we don't want to hear that, and because of the scourge of gender-based violence in the country, I think the NPA here must take the blame for what has happened in the initial trial, and say, listen, yeah, we failed the community, we failed the victims, and that is something we have to live by. But with the appeal, it's going to be a little bit of a tricky one to actually get it through, because now you have the record and you need to stay within that parameters.
Yes, in other words, they can't re-examine Timothy Omotoso, for example. That's done and dusted, and it's locked and it's on the record.
It's locked, it's on the record. You can't recall him now to come and testify in the appeal. You have to now deal, and if you raise questions of law to say, but maybe, and one of the questions of law is like where Judge Irma Skuman made because there's a law of evidence rule, similar fact evidence, to say on similar fact evidence, you can actually sort of convict a person. Like, for instance, there was a case where this guy started a veld fire, and there was already 14 other veld fires that were started in a very similar way, same modus operandi, and this guy was found and he was also convicted of that. Now, the mere fact that they want to now say, okay, these witnesses gave similar explanations as to what happened to them, but then we have got that problem. There was a WhatsApp group, there was the prosecute. So that question of law, because that's a question of law, did she apply the law correctly pertaining to how she viewed that evidence? So there was not a lot of questions of law that was raised by them. And I mean, it was just poor cross-examination. Even when Timothy Omotoso was there was poor cross-examination. Certain things was left hanging. They were not disputed. He gave his evidence, and it was not properly tested. So it becomes a very, very slippery slope for them.
Yeah. Alton, help us carve out the consequences here. And I'm speaking legally and socially speaking. We know how much attention this case has garnered because of the nature of the allegations against Timothy Omotoso. But also, you know, it's also, of course, put the NPA's work under the spotlight after that shock acquittal. If things don't go right in this appeal, I suppose one could argue that the NPA could find itself in even a worse situation than it did after this acquittal last month.
I won't necessarily say worse. It's just like we know that he's acquitted. There's already a worse situation where they currently is now explaining to the justice cluster, explaining to Parliament and the country as a whole as to how did they get it so wrong in this one, where they had it like if they did their work properly, they could have gotten secured an acquittal. Because I think there was, I don't know how many charges, and there was 32 that was leveled against him, and you did not get a single acquittal, a single conviction on any of them. So I think as now how they're going to weather the storm after the appeal is most probably dismissed. If the appeal, I'm not saying it's going to dismiss, but if it's dismissed, then they need to now really do serious introspection as to how they're going to deal with future cases of this nature, what type of prosecutors put on the cases, and also how they're going to now look the South African public in the eye and say, you still need to trust in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, there's also, of course, the immigration matter that Timothy Omotoso is currently in court for. Can these two things run concurrently? I mean, do you see the one interfering with the other at any stage?
Now, it can't run concurrently, because remember now you have a verdict that was already given in the one case. There's sexual offenses and related charges that comes with that. They're charging him now for violation of the Immigration Act. But I mean, this man was released, like I think it's 2 weeks ago. He was in custody for a better 7 years. So I think that is a witch hunt that's just trying to sort of have securing him not to flee the country, because I don't think they want to sit in the same situation as with Bushiri, where the man was acquitted and then he leaves the country and then his country won't extradite him back. And I think that was why they actually arrested him for the contravention of the Immigration Act, because there were certain things that he still needs to do. He was in custody. They didn't even take him from prison to say, and not that I'm saying they're supposed to do it, but to say you can go and renew your permit for your stay in the country, because he did not have freedom of movement. So that, for me, the charge of violating that was something partially done and brought onto Omotoso as a result of him being in custody and not by his own doing.
So, I mean, not to put words in your mouth, Elton, but are you suggesting that the NPA may have egg on its face even in this case too?
I feel so, because the reason is that, I mean, you and I know, if you are locked up in a prison, and let's say for Sun City in Johannesburg, the prison, you are there, and your passport expires today, but they'll keep you there for the next month. There's no way that you can say, I need to be at Home Affairs to renew my passport. There's no way. It's just logic. So he was in custody. He was then, if he can just prove that all reasonable steps for him to actually get his passports and papers in order, he could have said that I was in the process of actually now securing new permits, new documentation so that I do my things. Then they can't say because the time period and for him to get appointments because of the electronic booking system, it just takes time. And I think they might have egg on their face with these immigration charges now.
You make a fair point, but you're the analyst, not me, so we'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds. Elton Hart, always a pleasure. Thanks very much indeed for giving us your time and your insights. Elton Hart speaking to us in his capacity, of course, as a legal analyst as we weigh in or weigh up the different possible permutations in relation to Timothy Omotoso's legal woes.